which is difficult in a van.
Society.
Which is not ideal. If you are hot and
Yeah.
wet in a van, you are not doing well for yourself.
The plan has gone awry.
Yeah.
If you're hot and wet and you have no plan to fix one of those things, is hot worse than cold in a van?
Ooh, that's a toss-up, honestly. I don't know.
Because I know cold. I've done cold. Not a fan.
I think, though, with cold, your survival instincts kick in.
Yep.
And so it's more, you're not thinking about how miserable you are. You're thinking about, like, I'm going to get through this. I have to get through this. The sun's going to come up in the morning. It's going to warm up. I just have to figure out. And then, you know, like, my trick is I would stuff all of my clothing into my not my backpack, into my sleeping bag.
Okay.
And so it was like just like layers of just like trapping it in.
And then you put the clothes on and they're not freezing cold, which is a thing.
Oh, I had also like 8 layers of clothing on as well.
On your actual
Yeah,
body.
Yeah. I think I would rather be... That's a tough question. I think I would rather be cold in a van than hot in a van.
Okay. Because you can fix the cold. It's harder to fix the hot? Or what's the...
I think the hot is just like, it's just inconvenient.
Okay.
Like if it was so hot where you could potentially like become dehydrated or like literally cook in your van, but then like why would you just get out of your van?
Yeah.
And find shade or find like, there's quicker relief to being hot than there is to relief of being cold.
Okay. Yeah. What's the hottest you've done and the coldest you've done in a van?
Coldest I've done...
Fahrenheit, please.
Yeah, right. I just made the switch back on my phone to Fahrenheit. I still have kilometers on my Google Maps. But I would say the coldest van night was probably -10 or 15.
Damn.
Fahrenheit.
Damn.
Yeah.
Do you have a... What? Wow.
It was... So... I did have someone else in the van with me, and we had a pretty serious like body heat setup. My friend Rachel was over visiting. This was when I was in New Zealand, and like we each had on multiple layers. We like zipped our sleeping bags together, and then we also had like another sleeping bag and another blanket over the top. And also that night, I slept with our propane canisters between my legs because we had learned the night before that propane can in fact freeze. And so when we got up the next morning to make coffee, we couldn't because we didn't like the propane just piddled out. So that was the worst part, is that like there was just this constant like cold can.
Oh my God.
Between my
your
legs. But having coffee the next morning was like the reward of my personal sacrifice.
Epic coffee time. Wait, what does frozen propane look like? Is it like the green Coleman canisters?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay.
And like, I mean, I don't know that it was completely frozen. Like, it just wouldn't work. Nothing would come out.
Cold.
It was too cold. Like, and it was kind of scary actually too, because like I had no idea that this would happen, and I hooked it up to make fire the next morning, and it like frosted over one half of the can, and the other can was not. I was like, ooh, this seems like weird entrapment of gases and temperature fluctuations, and I'm just going to turn this off, because it was on full blast but nothing was coming out, and I knew that it was a brand new propane can. So
damn. And it's like I have the same feeling where like I don't understand what's happening inside there,
so I'm just to turn it off, and
it's
I'm going
not
to walk
gonna
away.
be good. Yeah, there's no good surprises with propane. It's not going to be like, oh great.
Yeah. So that was definitely the coldest. The hottest, I don't know. It never really, I mean, it got hot, but like hot enough where it was like I would sleep in a layer or naked with just like a sheet over me.
What do you got for airflow? Do you have a fan in there?
No, and that is something that I would do if I did it over again, is like definitely having airflow just for the bugs alone.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, sandflies are a real problem in New Zealand.
Sandflies?
Sandflies.
And they bite people, obviously.
Oh man, they love people. They bite in like clusters. So unlike a mosquito, it's not like you get like one or two. It's like you get attacked. Like they will literally like swarm your body and just destroy you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
They don't exist. They're not here?
They're not here.
They're just a New Zealand thing? Gross.
I don't know where else they are. I mean, I don't think that they're completely indigenous to New Zealand, but it's definitely like the first time you have a sandfly problem is you're like, oh, Like at first I was like, mosquitoes don't really bug me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I've gotten mosquito bites.
I've gotten mosquito bites, no
Part of
big
the
deal.
deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm from Missouri where there's mosquitoes, they don't really bite me. I eat whatever.
Onions or garlic
I
or
eat
some
herbs and they don't bother me. And so I wasn't worried about the sandflies at all. And then, and then I got hit by the sandflies.
I'd never even heard of a sandfly before. Oh my God. I wouldn't even know to be worried about them. When did you go to New Zealand? When did you get back? How long were you there?
Actually, today, it might be today or yesterday, is my 1 year of, thank you, it's the postman.
1 year post-van?
1 year postman. That was the postman.
Oh, thank you, postman.
Yeah, the postman.
But we're talking about post-van.
We're talking post-van life. I moved to New Zealand the first time January 16th of 2019.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? Yes.
January 16th, 2019.
So I was there for the duration of 2019. I had applied for a 2-year work to residency visa. And so I came back to the U.S. over Christmas 2019 and then flew back to New Zealand about the same time. 2020. Was there for a week and a half, started my job the first day of starting my new job. Well, it was the same job, but new year. I got an email from immigration that I had officially been declined and that I had 21 days to leave the country.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
And if you had stayed, I'm sure you've thought about this.
Yeah.
If you had stayed, you would have done New Zealand pandemic, which was a lot better than our pandemic.
Well, I couldn't stay.
Was your 2 years up?
No, so that visa was declined. They said, no, thank you.
But you had already been on one.
I had already been on one. That visa had expired.
Gotcha.
And then
The 1 year visa?
The 1 year visa,
Okay.
yeah. Which is, I was going to say an incredible opportunity, but they got rid of that program. Thanks, pandemic. So it was a 1 year working holiday visa. If you were under the age of 30, you can apply for it and it's free.
God damn it.
Yeah. But
now I'm 30.
So now there's one, though, that is an international exchange program that's through a travel agency that you can get up to the age of 35.
Cool.
But they have suspended that one.
Makes sense.
Indefinitely.
Sure.
So I had come back to the U.S. to planning to get that visa and then just go right back. And then things got weird.
God damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the original draw to New Zealand for you?
It was a long ways away. I liked pictures of New Zealand.
Oh, yeah.
It looked really cool. I didn't really know anyone that had been to New Zealand.
Yes.
My brother, who is a huge outdoors person, he had tried to go to New Zealand to do it was like a 2-year, you got certified in like avalanche training, sea kayaking, like snowboarding, like literally everything outside.
The program certifies you in all those things.
Yeah, and that's
an instructor or whatever. Guide.
That's what put it on the map for me, was like, oh, this is this really cool place where you can go surfing and snowboarding in the same day, sort of thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so I had done a working holiday visa in Ireland.
Neat.
And because of that, after that was like cashed in or whatever, I was like, where else can I go?
Yeah.
And then New Zealand and Australia both had working holiday visas. So it had just kind of been like in the back of my mind for 8 years of like, oh, before I turn 30, I could go to New Zealand. And so the December before I turned 30, I applied for, my birthday's in February. I literally was drunk on New Year's and was like, I'm just going to fill this out right now. I'm just going to do it. And then got an email back and 24 hours was still at my friend's place, being over a hungover mess. Was oh, I guess I could go to New Zealand if I want.
They're working today. They're doing it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I got it. And then I was like, I don't know. We'll see. And then the more I thought about it, because I had a good job, everything was...
Were you working at that brewery?
I was working at Logboat at the time. Yeah. And it's do I really want to...
You were in St. Louis.
And I was in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Do I really want to just jump ship? Go. And then I figured what's the worst that can happen?
Exactly.
I fall on my ass in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And then I come back to the U.S. and get another job at another brewery, potentially even come back to a different job with the same brewery.
Yeah.
Sure. And
were you having because my 29th year was I was having a bit of a crisis the entire time.
No, I was
That's
pumped
good.
to get into my 30s.
Why?
I was just over being 20.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that I did my 20s really, really well. I managed to escape them without any STDs, without a DWI, without any type of financial ruin. In fact, I had great credit leaving my 20s.
Did you have money?
Yeah, and I did.
Some money and a good job.
I had a savings account. I had a good job.
Damn,
I had an incredible apartment.
Yep.
And I was doing stand-up. I was like incorporating stand-up into my job with the brewery. And so like I
Were you doing shows at the brewery?
I did shows at the brewery.
Fucking smart.
And the best thing was that I was able to like bring people to St. Louis and pay them because the brewery would give me a stipend to pay the act. So it was like I wasn't having to, convince a venue that stand-up was worth it. And then I had like built-in advertising because the brewery would advertise.
Yeah.
Like all of these things just
They had
really
clientele already go to hang out
Yeah.
at that brewery. Why not go see a show there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody
Like the
come
beer.
upstairs when you're already here on a Friday night at 6 p.m., watch stand-up for an hour, and then go back downstairs and continue to
Do
party.
your thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You were always a great producer. I remember we did a little tour and we did a St. Louis stop, and that was the only good show.
We had, was that the one that wasn't in St. Louis, though? It was in
yeah.
it was at
At an Italian restaurant in the suburbs.
Tetros.
Tetros.
Yes.
And I still have Tetros' number because I was like I'm coming to do a show here every month. Something crazy, whatever I
Yeah.
said when I was having a beer with him. But like, I'm coming back. This is awesome. This crowd was great because it was full and they loved it.
Luke loves stand-up, and for him, like, he was a venue manager that got it. That was like, if the night sucks, it sucks for me. I don't make money. I spent all of this time, for nothing. And then the people that are here don't have a good time,
Yep.
whatever. And it was like, no, I'm going to pack the house. I'm going to take care of the comedians. I'm going to make a ton of money as a result.
He did.
And he did. And like, he did everything. And it was a great, great time. And it was also people that weren't exposed to comedy all
I
of the
know.
time. So it was like a very special thing for them to not have to leave, their like 20-mile bubble to go
Yes.
see a comedy show.
But unlike most people who are like fresh and new to comedy, they seem to be like respectful of it, and they didn't like, because usually it's like, I feel like if you see comedy for the first time live ever, you're like, well, I can just fuck with this guy, right? I can
Yeah.
just yell something.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They were
no,
very
they
nice.
didn't. No, and well, I mean, we did shows there, I would say like quarterly. So I think typically it was like a 50-50. 50% were people that had like been to a comedy show at Tetros before, or just like trusted Luke.
Yeah.
Or knew like, oh, if I'm a jerk and ruin this, like Luke's going to be mad at me and then I won't be able to go to my favorite bar.
Because right, my favorite bar is in on it. They're not
Yeah.
like half-heartedly like allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
They are in on it.
Yeah.
That's smart. So you had that from the beginning. You understand that, which
Yeah.
Still 95% of comedy shows don't understand.
Yeah, and I've been thinking too of like what would comedy look like if I started doing comedy again, and I feel like I would only do crowdsource shows. Like if 50% of the tickets are not sold by like 3 weeks out to the show's not happening.
Ooh.
And like I feel
I like
like that
that.
gives I think it would be a gamble for the venue, so I'd have to figure out how to like make that compromise depending on what kind of venue it is. Cuz like music venues, if your show's not there that night and it's 3 weeks out, then potentially they don't have the ability to book something else to make
Right.
them money.
Yeah, it's not the way the business doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, but I don't know, putting like, hey, if you want this to happen, like you have to invest something in it.
That reminds me, Paul F. Tompkins used to do this thing, the PFT 300, where he goes, if you want me to do a show in your city, wherever it is, you make a Facebook group, the PFT 300 Facebook group, and if you get 300 members in that city who agree to buy a ticket for the show, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
That's great. I mean, that's like, and two, for comedians who are traveling and booking tours, especially people who are doing it without an agent, you don't want to drive to Nashville and spend $125 on fuel to get there from Chicago, and then there's no one there, and then it, and
Even
then
if
it
you
just
do get
sucks.
paid. Even if you do
Even
get
if you
the
do get paid,
guarantee,
yeah.
you don't want to do a show where no one's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can just eliminate that and say, okay, cool, fine, we'll do a show for, we had 100 tickets, we sold 50, but we sold that 50 for 3 weeks in advance. Like, we're doing the show. Absolutely. Like, we'll be there. We can't wait.
It's happening.
Yeah.
That's the right mentality. That's great.
But we'll
That's
see.
amazing. So what did you do in Ireland? What city were you in Ireland? And for how long were you there?
I did not enjoy Ireland.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I'm the only ginger on earth that did not feel welcome in Ireland.
Good for you for not just faking it. You could lie and say it was lovely.
It was lovely. No, Ireland was miserable, man. It is the worst weather.
Yep.
It's so far. I didn't realize it's almost like the same latitude as Anchorage,
Alaska?
which you don't think about. Like when you think about Ireland, and I could be completely wrong in this, but I feel like I remember looking at a map being like, they're like right here.
Yeah, I mean, there's other factors that do.
It was so far north that in the winter, I would pull myself out of bed somewhere between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. The sun would just be coming out, and then it would be back down by 4 p.m. And it was cold, it was rainy, it never snowed, there was never any sunshine. It's a small country.
Yeah. What city were you in?
So I lived in Cork.
Okay.
I was in Dublin. I also had a horrible start. And so I went to Ireland for a job. I was going to work with a hostel to manage their venue space. So booking bands.
Which you're passionate about. You just gushed about it.
I was also, I think, 23. But I was working for a community radio station, so I had the experience. Got connected through a couch surfer for the job. Everything was set up great. I was going to live at the hostel who had the venue until I found other accommodations.
Cool.
Got there, set my bags down, and they were like, so the hostel has sold and we're tearing down the venue space and we're going to build another kitchen and more bedrooms. It's like, okay.
So no venue space.
And no one told me.
So
they
no
fired
job?
everyone. And so I had they're like, you can clean here until you find something else.
Oh.
So that was really disheartening. But then I got a job the first night working at Wayland's, which is the biggest music venue in Dublin.
The first night?
The first night. I met the owner of Wayland's out drinking, and he was like, come tomorrow, I'll give you a job. And I was like, hell yeah. And then I worked.
That's why you go drinking.
And then I worked a 16-hour shift that they did not pay me for.
Sure.
And then they were like, this was a trial run. Come back in 8 hours to do it all over again. And I was like, no.
Okay.
Absolutely not. This is stupid. So then I moved to Cork.
Wait, where was all this happening?
That was all in Dublin.
Okay.
So then I moved to Cork. Also, Ireland is so tiny. I was planning a road trip and was like, I need a month to travel Ireland. And then from Dublin to Galway, which is the west coast, it's 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. So I moved to Cork and I worked at a hostel with a bar for the next.
Okay, so you had to change cities in order to keep this thing going.
Yeah, it's just I didn't want to give up.
Yeah.
Which I should have. I should have just been like, you know what, Ireland's not for me. Eventually I did after 7 months of working in the same bar and hostel. I mean, that place was a good environment. Actually, the owners, funny enough, were Kiwis. They were from New Zealand.
Get out of here.
That I reconnected with when I went to New Zealand.
Amazing.
But yeah, it was it was a fine situation. I was making decent money and having a good time, but just everybody already had their social circles, and that is something that is difficult about being someone who's traveling. It's while you do make really great relationships and you can form those bonds that will last a lifetime, just instantaneously, at the same time, some people aren't willing to invest in you because they know you're going to be gone.
You'll be gone.
In whatever.
Yeah, you're expendable.
And that was my experience in not New Zealand. That was my experience in Ireland. It was just you're going to be here until you're not. So you're not going to be our bud.
Right. And and also you're not going to be the next big promoter. You're just kind of at work. It's probably a similar thing, right? You're not going to be there forever. You're not going to be they're not investing in you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. But I had a lot of fun doing comedy in Ireland. That was pretty recent after I had started doing comedy, and that was cool because it was primarily international audiences, and so it made me really challenge myself to write better jokes because there's a lot of nuances that people who don't speak English for a first language wouldn't pick up on.
And even that, but there's American turns of phrase that people are playing on all the time in comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was really fun, and that definitely kept me afloat and excited and pumped. It was cool, well, if I'm doing shows, I'm doing something that's different or challenging myself as opposed to just whatever I'd be doing back in the U.S.
Yeah. So did you get some stand-up cred in Cork?
Not really.
Okay. Did you get on some stuff?
Nothing big.
Yeah.
Nothing big. No.
Once again, it's why? Yeah, you're a flash in the pan. I mean, also it takes you about a year in any new city for anyone to be like, you're pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been here for a year doing great comedy, and they go,
Yeah.
you're pretty good. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's how it goes when you're new in comedy anywhere, I assume.
Yeah. But that being said, in New Zealand, it was a total opposite, and it was just like instantaneous success because there were so few comedians that it was like, A, you're a new face, B, you have a different perspective, and C, everyone thinks Americans are funny.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That being said, I had some of the worst shows of my life
in New
Zealand. Genuinely the most PC...
Really?
white person culture that
Wow.
you will, like to a fault almost. Where
And
it's like,
I know you and your comedies. I'm saying wow because I'm surprised that those people would find you impalatable.
yeah, and I think that like, I mean, I say some challenging things, but I'm by like no means like a shock value comedian
No.
at all.
No.
And also I was doing my most regular open mic was at Natamoti Hall.
Are you like in the big city, Wellington?
No. I was on the South Island in a small town called Machueka.
Okay.
And like Christchurch had a great comedy scene. Dunedin had a pretty good comedy scene. Nelson had like 10 comedians. That was the comedy scene.
Okay. Those are all decent sized cities in New Zealand or
Yeah.
towns?
Yeah, they're towns.
What's the biggest one? Wellington.
So
Is
the
that right?
largest city is Auckland. So
Auckland.
2 million people live in Auckland, surrounding Auckland
2
area.
million?
2 million. There are 5 million people total in New Zealand.
Okay.
And then so between Wellington, Christchurch, Dunedin, Queenstown, Nelson, I would say that's about
Everybody.
500,000. And
Oh,
then,
wow.
yeah, and then
Okay.
everyone else is like, so there's only like 1 million people on the South Island, which is where I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a very small
Very small.
comedy scene.
Yeah, and where I did comedy most frequently was a once a month open mic in the middle of nowhere. That was like primarily like poets.
Sure.
One woman was incredible. She would play the harp that she built.
She built her own harp.
She built her own harp, and then she would play it, and I had to tell jokes after that one
I
time.
know.
It's
I
like,
know.
there's no way I can be successful here. I ultimately ended up writing my own eulogy because I was bombing every single month. But the host was a friend of mine, and he was like, "Trust me, she's funny." Like,
Why were you bombing so much?
oh, it just
Because you're bad?
because I was bad at
'Cause you're
comedy. Because life was so pleasant that I had nothing to be humorous about. Because I had everything I needed. But yeah, I ended up writing my own eulogy, and then they were like, "Oh, we like this."
Okay, so it's different. I mean, it's a different comedy audience, right? They do a kind of a UK style Hannah Gadsby.
Yeah, I mean, like Flight of the Conchords
Flight
are
of the
like the
Conchords.
most well-known stand-up sketch comedy group out of New Zealand, and like to me, their greatest bit was like the talking stove. You know, like do you
Right.
do you remember the talking
No,
stove?
I don't.
He just
They're-
opens the stove and it's like it's the talking stove. So it's like
I like
yeah,
Flight of the Conchords, but it's funny to imagine a comedy culture in which Flight of the Conchords, that's Saturday Night Live.
yeah.
That's the big thing. Where here it's like, that's a fun, quirky little palate cleanser. If you've been watching a lot of comedy and you want something a little different, here's Flight of the Conchords. No. They're the Rolling Stones.
They are. They are. And Taika, who now has gone on to become like a huge producer.
Taika Smith.
Yeah, Taika Jones actually, but it's pronounced Johns because he's Kiwi.
Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi.
Waititi.
I think it's Waititi.
Because of the native. It's like a native last name.
He is Maori. Yes,
Maori.
Maori. But yeah, he has his hands in every successful project coming out of New Zealand. I imagine. I don't know. I guess that's a pretty grand statement. I don't think he managed Lorde, but
Yeah. I didn't know
he
Lorde.
probably knows her.
It's a small group. It's a
But I
small
mean, well, he
club.
did like What We Do in the Shadows, and that is incredible. I love the Americanized TV version of that. But yeah, that is just like humor there is very passive. It's also very, like, to speak to like the British style, like very like cerebral, very like thinking comedy.
Yeah, I've heard people describe it as like, it's like very understated and polite, like, oh, I like it. Got a bit of a shirt there.
Yeah.
Got a shirt on, haven't you? And it's like, that's a joke because you're wearing a shirt that's a little bit different than my shirt or something.
100%.
Like, it's like very like, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I nailed it. So
Yeah, but then you have that, but then you have like an audience that is people from France, people from Germany, Maori, people from the UK, random American, Australians. Like, you have all of these people who have very different humor and styles too, that you're like, I don't know. It was just really bizarre.
So wait, I thought you were saying it went really well for you, and then I've all
So I
heard
did.
it went
So
badly.
So that was, New Zealand went really well for me, comedy-wise. I ended up writing an hour, producing an hour show, debuting it at the Christchurch Comedy Festival.
Beer slut.
The first night was a grand slam, had a fantastic time, nailed it, was like on cloud nine that I pulled it off. And then the second night was the opening of the Rugby World Cup.
Okay.
And the two people who had bought tickets to my show did not show up.
Okay.
And so 15 minutes after the scheduled start time of my show, I walked around to every person that was working that night. It was at a coffee house, and was like, I want you to know that I will 100% put on the show for you, because that is what I'm here to do. But if you want to go home early, I will help clean up. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
And everybody unanimously was like, let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm 100% in that camp.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like the Super Bowl was on.
Bigger than the Super Bowl.
Bigger.
Yeah. It was
Jesus.
the Rugby World Cup, and the All Blacks are the greatest rugby team on earth, with the exception, technically, South Africa did win.
The All Blacks, widely regarded as the Flight of the Conchords of the rugby world.
Yes. They would be delighted to hear that. They actually would. They would think that it's a very good joke. They would say, good on you, mate.
Kind of like the... anyway, yeah, okay. I'm not going to do the voice anymore.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not great.
Just for...
Of course not. And it's kind of like... It's such a temptation. Like, when you're talking to somebody, I'm sure you had this when you were there. When I'm talking to somebody with an accent, the most obnoxious part of me wants to do their accent back at them. And that's the least exciting thing they've ever heard.
I definitely picked up on like key phrases and like sayings, and I started saying differently, which like started to bother me. Like, it was more like an instead of or like which, yeah, it's just, cultural immersion, I suppose.
Right.
But then there were times, like, especially if I had been drinking at all, I'd be like, God damn it, Kelsey.
What?
Shut up.
Stop
doing the voice. Stop doing, and I never really tried to do, it wasn't more like the Kiwi. It was more of like when I was hanging out with like French or Germans, I would start speaking broken English back to them. Like, I too could not speak English for a first language, which I felt like is like super insulting, because it's like, this person is speaking one of many languages that they speak, and I'm going to do them the disservice of speaking poor English back to them.
Oh yeah, I remember having it in like restaurants where like our chefs would be talking to a busboy who speaks, fractured English, just like a Spanish is his first language, obviously.
Yeah.
And they would speak accented, broken English back to the busboy. And I think Kelsey, I'm gonna like try to be empathetic to that, because I think it's just mirroring. I think it's mirroring.
Absolutely.
I think that's why accents happen in the first place, is by mirrored speech, right? So I think we can let you off the hook for that. Although it's nice that you care enough to not do it.
Yeah,
anymore.
I would also get called out on it. Like, the soccer team I played with, they would just dig into me all of the time. If I said anything that was like, they'd be like, oh, you're a Kiwi now, huh? And just, which was great. I really like needed that.
That's what friends do.
But also, I was desperate to fit in, as we all are. So
I can't imagine. Yeah. So what was the difference between that and Ireland? Like, I still haven't heard like anything amazing about it yet from your point of view.
Well, I think the big difference was just me. In Ireland, I was like I was like 23, 24. I was like desperate to be like, I wanted to do I'm a young white 20-something, and I'm going to go to another country. I'm going to have this incredible cultural experience. I'm going to come back a changed woman. I had such high expectations.
For Ireland?
For Ireland.
Yes.
And then I got there and I was like, none of this is like really that different. I'm not doing anything that special. I'm doing all the same things I would have done in the U.S. Yeah, I'm seeing different things. But, it still felt like I like went for like 2 weeks and had like the best time. Like, I felt like that was like, that's what I was like aiming for, but then I was just disappointed at every turn. And then New Zealand was like, okay, I'm going into my 30s. I should be thinking about like a career, about financial security, about like all of these things to like figure out how to support myself. And then I just kind of said, no, screw it. I'm going to go to New Zealand for a year. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out.
Right.
Who cares?
And like, okay, so it was the attitude.
I'm going to fall on my ass in paradise.
Yeah, right.
That is okay. And so I just went over with this attitude of like, I'll see what I'll see. I'll do what I'll do. And that's what happened. I mean, I lucked out and found a van through Couchsurfer. So it was like, I knew the van was going to be in like at least good condition. And like the dude like gave me $20 for my first like tank of gas, like after he sold it to me.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
That's
great
sweet.
stuff.
That's great.
And so I just drove around, stopped when I felt like stopping, would go on hikes, started fly fishing while I was over there.
So you learned to fly fishing there? 'Cause
Yeah.
you're super into that now.
Super into it, yeah. I love it. It's generally the only thing I can do other than play soccer, where it's the only thing I think about while I'm doing it.
That is what a great selling point is for someone like me whose mind races.
Yeah.
And like I need to have a podcast on while I do anything. You can focus on fly fishing. You need to be in it.
Yeah, I just like... The whole thing about fly fishing is you're just replicating nature. So you're not like, there is like a point, where you're like tossing in a fly or something that's going to startle the fish, scare the fish, and then it eats the fly, you cut your fish. But like ultimately what you're doing is you're trying to replicate the exact same scenario of the environment the fish is already in. And because it turns out trout are pretty picky eaters, and they will just be like, no, that doesn't look good. I'm going to eat something else.
Right.
So it's this constant like, okay, how is the water running? Is there a tree behind me? Like you have so many things to think about where it's just, you start to think about those things naturally and become aware of your surroundings. And then ultimately, like you're standing in a river.
With those big waders on.
I did not have waders until I came to the U.S. I bought waders so I could fly fish through the winter.
Were you just standing there? It was like decent enough where you could just be like waist deep in water?
Yeah.
And you'd be kind of, it's warm enough?
Yeah.
How's the weather there?
So I lived in the sunniest area. I lived in the Nelson Tasman area. More sun there. There's also a hole in the ozone layer.
Above New Zealand?
Above New Zealand. And I also got a mole while I was there that I had to have removed because I thought it was skin cancer from the 1 year that I was there.
Whoa.
Wasn't cancer. I'm good, but I'm going to be paying that off for a while.
Wow. So take that, New Zealand. You don't have everything. You still you have some problems,
Yeah.
No coronavirus, but you've got
But
some
also we
serious
gave
UV
them
problems.
that hole over the ozone layer. So
We were spraying out hairsprays.
it is women's fault. You finally got us on something.
Hey, there's some eras where men really made a run at hairspray.
Yeah.
Like,
NASCAR. But yeah, New Zealand was just, I also I'm so grateful for the time that I had in New Zealand in the van. I had to learn how to hang out with myself, which was the biggest challenge. I had to learn the first week I was there, I was anxious about getting to Wi-Fi because I felt like I needed to look for a job because my life was built around the work that I was doing.
Yeah.
And then it was no, Kelsey, you worked your ass off. You have $8,000 in savings.
Okay.
You can you don't need a job right now. Just go have fun. And it took me probably a month of just being nope, not going to work. No, I'm not going to work. Forcing myself to just go out and play and not worry about it. And now I have the opposite problem. I'm you want me to work?
Yeah, you were just saying that the hardest part of returning to normal life is you have to do stuff and pay rent, which now seems really expensive.
Oh, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to just rent an apartment ever again.
Because it seems like a scam to you?
It does seem like a scam.
Well, it is. It's a great scam.
It is a scam.
Yeah.
And just, I don't need that. I really valued, pre-New Zealand, I valued having a really comfortable space. And I do, I loved hosting people. I loved when comedians would come through and we could play Nintendo 64 on my projector.
You're great at it.
I loved having a place that just, could welcome anyone. And if anybody needed to crash for any reason, yes, come over to my house. Doors always open. Porch light is always on. That is how any house I ever have will always be. But that being said, I've been enjoying being on the flip side of that, where it's hey, can I crash on your couch?
Yeah. Getting some of those karmic points back.
Yeah, and I don't want to depend on that. And it was really difficult to depend on that because I came back from New Zealand flat broke, without a job, right at the beginning of a pandemic.
Wow.
The job I got, they didn't file my paperwork, so I was not a documented worker in the state of Missouri pre-2020. So I didn't qualify for unemployment or anything. So I was just out of work, homeless, with the exception that like a very good friend and her partner took me in. Like, so I cashed in on all those karma points for sure. There were not enough dishes and like their laundry and like taking their dog for walks and trying to fix things up around the house that I could do to ever pay them back for like the generosity they offered me. But like having my own apartment and a place to store stuff that I will not have to buy. Like, I don't own a bed anymore.
Right.
I don't own a couch.
Chains.
Yeah.
Chains of
stuff that I'm going to have to
capitalism.
move out in a year when I lose my shit and I want to go
when
move
you
into
do,
my van
you're
again.
Gonna have to pay U-Haul. Yeah, you're going to have to pay U-Haul $700 to move that stuff out of your house. Yeah, it's all weighting you down.
But that being said, like I have started collecting strange things. Like I just took the trash out and there were 2x4s by the dumpster. I was like, gonna take those 2x4s.
Right. You have the luxury.
And like I drive by places where there's like, I used to drive by like out in the country of Missouri and there'd just be like stuff all over people's yards. And I'd be like, why can't they keep that inside? And now I drive by and I'm like, I bet there's a lot of really useful stuff in there. Like, wonder if they know how useful that stuff is that they have in there.
Right. Some like stuff that you'll use it once every 3 months.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it unless you have a lot of storage space to keep it.
And stuff like plywood and 2x4s. And like now I'm like starting to collect saws. And it's like, man, if I get an apartment, I'm going to also need a place to like store it. Or could I live in someone's garage and just like...
Could be cool.
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, so in New Zealand, was the plan to buy a van and live in it? What was the plan when you got there?
So originally my plan was to get a motorcycle. I got my motorcycle license right before I went over, and I was going to get a motorcycle and do it that way. And then after a very brief conversation with someone about it, and also another couch surfer, he was like, dude, like, the roads are like terrifying. And they really are.
They wind?
They wash out. At one point I was driving to a comedy show and literally the only Highway 6, the road was closed.
The only highway on the way there or the only highway in New Zealand?
The only highway from where I lived in Nelson to Queenstown is Highway 6. It was closed at Fox Glacier because it goes over this river. There was so much. It was the wettest day on Earth in like this tiny little area. On Earth in this one spot. Like there was more rain on this, like on the west coast of New Zealand in this like one day than there was like cumulatively. It was insane. So this bridge literally washes out. It's gone. There's no bridge there anymore.
Damn. It was a rainy day. It was a really rainy day.
It was the most rainy day.
Yeah.
And so the only route I had to drive 8 hours to go around the other direction and then drive another 7 hours to come back. I had to drive to the other side of the island, over several mountain passes, and then south and then back up.
Adding how many hours to the trip?
It ended up being 13 more hours of driving. I was 3 hours away. And 3 days and 13 hours later. So he was like, don't get a motorcycle until you feel good on the roads, and also you can sleep in your van. You're never going to have to pitch a tent.
Exactly, no tent.
And I was like, cool, you're right. And then I got the van, and R.I.P. She just died a couple weeks ago.
You brought it back here?
No, I left it. I just left it. I left it at a friend's house, passed it off to a couple different travelers, and then ultimately ended up giving it to like a friend of my father's kids. It was like a friend who was living in New Zealand. And they had it, and they actually were about to go on their last road trip in New Zealand, and then the day they left, it just started doing weird things, and it was dead. It was leaking oil so profusely that it drowned an electronics manifold, and like none of the electronics were ever going to work again unless it was completely replaced, and it was going to be like $2,000, and I think I paid $3,000 for the van.
Nice.
So.
Okay, so did you work in New Zealand?
I did.
Where'd you work?
I worked at a brewery for a while. I worked in the cellar. And then the job that was going to keep me there is I was going to take over a youth soccer program.
Cool.
And I was also working at the high school in Motueka.
What were you doing in the high school?
I was a teacher aide in the special education department.
Nice.
Yeah. It was incredible. I would go to work from 8:45 to 2:45, go coach soccer 2 days a week.
Perfect.
And then I would just go fishing or hiking or...
That's great. But that did leave you stuck in one spot, in one city in New Zealand.
It did. And that was like going to be the hardest thing for me to reckon with, was that I was not going to leave New Zealand for 2 years. in order to get my residency there. So that way for the rest of my life, I would have the ability to live there and work there without having to get a visa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, these are these are tips I didn't know were possible.
If you get residency somewhere, you can live and work there without a visa.
So, but can you use the visa to get that residency?
So you have to have a visa that will allow you to work there while you are working towards residency.
Okay.
And some countries have it set up to where it's like a program where it's like, okay, you work 2 years, then you can apply for residencies. Others just say you have to have worked here for 2, 5, 10, however many years, and then after that you can apply for residency.
And are you good at, you seem like you're good at looking these things up and doing the research and the work.
New Zealand is super simple.
Okay.
A lot of people want to move to New Zealand, and so they have everything listed out very well on their website.
Wow, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Like you can get on their website, say how old you are and where you're from, and then a list of visas will come down.
Okay, great. The options. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not that hard.
If you do that in the UK, it's not going to happen.
Okay, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, so were you still living in the van when you had the job?
Yes. So during the time that I lived in the van, I also lived part-time in a bus. I lived in a barn.
Whose bus?
I lived in actually a stand-up comedian's bus. He and his family went to the U.S. for like 6 weeks, and I lived in their bus for 4 of them.
You drove around in
No,
the
the bus did not have an engine in it. The bus was in rough shape. The bus was not parked level, and so I would have nightmares that I was just like rolling down a hill. I lived in a friend's barn that I was helping her fix up, and then I did end up renting a room for the last like 2 months that I was there because
that must have felt nice.
It was great. My roommates were wild.
What, partiers?
Oh my God. Oh my God. So much partying. They were all sweet and I loved them all very much. But like one day.
That's a lot for you to say. You're like a brewery person. You're fun.
Yeah.
We've drank before.
But also like ketamine versus
Gotcha.
yeah. Yeah.
What kind of powders are we talking about?
Yeah. And that to me
Ketamine.
was like ketamine. Like hallucinogens terrify me because it's like I don't know what that person's going to do. And so living in a situation where all my roommates were, doing K for 48 hours.
Drunk, you understand.
Yeah.
You understand
100%.
every level of drunk.
Yeah.
You've seen all of those before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
So that just kind of made me like, it was like, and also too like, not to stereotype, but like ketamine doesn't attract the best quality human being over to do ketamine. It was like my very tiny amount of possessions I had, I want to keep safe.
Yeah.
And is someone going to like kick in my door because they need to find the squirrel or like whatever? I don't know, but yeah, I would have stayed at that place. She had a beautiful garden. It was like
Are you saying garden like yard?
Yes, they had a great garden.
Not like they weren't growing stuff.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. They like I would pull a lemon off of a lemon tree every morning and have a lemon water while I was making my coffee.
I absolutely hate that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What a life.
Yeah. So yeah, that was cool. And also I was like trying to like establish some sense of like normalcy and also show to my employer. And then also for the visa process, I had to have an address.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing was, hey, look, I'm living somewhere.
Yeah. I'm not a vagrant invading your, although I was for the last 8 months. I was.
And the van life people are not received so well in New Zealand anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, well, yeah, you're a vagrant.
Yeah, and it ended up like stripping a lot of freedoms from Kiwis. Like freedom camping was very much is the thing in New Zealand. It's like you find a place to park up, you park there, you sleep for the night, you move on.
Oh, okay. Freedom camping.
Freedom camping, yeah. So there's like no exchange of currency or whatnot. It's just like, yep, take care of the place. It was customary to like, hey, knock on the door. I'm going on holiday. Do you mind if I camp in your pasture for the night? Do you mind if I get river access? Like, sure, absolutely, But then it turned into international travelers coming over, taking advantage of that, leaving trash, the things that people do when they are not good at camping and taking care of the spot.
Okay.
So because of that,
word got out about this freedom camping policy, which started out as sounds great, like a great idea.
Yeah, no, it is a great idea. And like it's like the transition from couch surfing to Airbnb.
Yeah.
Like couch surfing was this beautiful online network that did not cost anything. You could host people, you could be hosted, And then more people started joining it. And then it, like your favorite band on their 4th album, it's just not worth it.
Sexual assault.
Yeah, pretty much.
Something terrible will happen.
Something terrible happened, so now we're going to charge people and check their identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now daddy has to come in and check everyone's identity.
Yeah.
And do a background check, and it's not going to be fun, and it will cost you more money.
And now you're going to be nervous all of a sudden, and if someone's not perfect, you're going to have to then leave them a bad review.
It's the 70s versus the 60s. It's like, now we're not having that much fun anymore. Sorry. We're wearing condoms now.
Yeah. Yeah. Freedom Camping now has to wear condoms. But the condom users are just leaving them in the parking lot. So.
Freedom Camping.
But there were still tons of free places to park up, and there's like apps.
Better than here, even?
Oh, without I really do at some point want to live in a van or my Ford Taurus in the United States, but it is so much more complicated and it's so much more scary. And that is like when the first like couple weeks in New Zealand, I was like, okay, no one has guns. Like there's fewer people. There's like less bad people. Like there's not like it's not a violent culture. The United States is a very violent culture.
God.
There was a woman who was murdered on a Tinder date in New Zealand, and the whole country had a candlelight vigil for her. That is a Tuesday in St. Louis.
It wouldn't make the news.
It wouldn't make the news. and so I had that of like...
Right.
I genuinely felt safe for the first time in my life of like, there's not even any predators. There's nothing, there's no poisonous, there's no snakes.
Oh, you mean predators, like animal predators?
Like animals predators, yeah. I'm sure there are predators in New Zealand, like human beings, but there was like, there's no snakes. There's 2 poisonous spiders, which most New Zealanders have never even seen. Like there's no bears.
Whereas Australia has...
everything poisonous.
Okay, I just grouped them together.
Yeah, no,
but it's an island, so it's
New
different.
Zealand is a volcanic island, so everything that is there outside of like migratory bird species was brought to New Zealand.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They don't have they don't have sheep. Nothing naturally occurs that couldn't have gotten
There's
there.
like no naturally occurring mammals there.
Right.
Everything
so the Galapagos or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So coming back from that, like the first time I went camping in Missouri, I was like walking down the river and just was like, oh, snakes, oh, bears, oh, like I just like all of these like, rednecks, like.
Not even, right.
And then generally like came around a corner and it was like a boat ramp and this dude is like sitting outside of his truck listening to like, I don't know, Sweet Child of Mine or something, like rubbing his belly. He's like, hey, what are you doing out here? I'm like, oh God, this is like, I literally got in my car and drove back to St. Louis. I was so upset. Like I can't even be in nature here.
Okay, right. So it's way scary. You had the experience of within hours of my home.
I had culture shock.
Culture shock from New Zealand.
From New Zealand of like everything just being nice and pleasant and not scary to like, oh God, everything's trying to kill me.
But did you have that? Did you have that same thing you had in Ireland, where you felt like sort of a disposable human, like they didn't accept you because you were transient, you were gonna be gone soon?
I guess there was like no reason to stand out or want to stand out in Ireland.
Yep.
So I think that was for me. It was just like
one more redhead in a sea.
Yeah, I really was. That was one of the cutest things that would always happen is I would like speak to someone and they'd be like, "How long did you live in America for?"
Cool.
And I would be like, "My whole life. I am just a ginger. Like I'm not from here." Like people would be like I'd be like walking down the street. They'd be like, "Hey, where do you go to get to here?" And I'd be like, "I have no idea."
And they'd be all surprised.
And they'd be like, "Oh,
yeah,
very nice American accent."
So you didn't have that going for you, and it didn't go well. Yeah, you had. Yeah. You assimilated visually.
And 2 is like, I don't know, a point in my life where am I going to make better friends than the friends I already have? Like I wasn't in that travel. Like I know now that I'm not someone who's meant to stay in the same place forever. And when I went to Ireland, I was still feeling like I need to have that house. I need to have that like security. I need to come back. I need to get married, and I need to have all of those like stepping stone things.
Yeah, you were looking for stability.
It felt like it was the last it was like my Rumspringa. It was like, well, I'm gonna just go to Ireland and then I'm gonna come back and figure it all out.
Gotcha.
And New Zealand was just like, no, this is just like I'm gonna just figure out how to keep moving for the rest of my life. That does seem
to me that does mirror my experience of like a 24-year-old versus 29-year-old. Because when you're 24, you think of 30 as like a far off goalpost thing, and like by then you'll have gotten that all out of your system. And honestly, the only thing you get out of your system is like that idea that that you'll be someone different. You're like, by 29, you're like, I'm stuck in this.
Yeah, no,
mentality.
this is me.
This is me.
This is me.
Unfortunately, for better or worse, this is who I'm gonna be.
Yeah. And two, and it was just like, if I don't make friends, I don't make friends.
Yeah.
Like, you just kind of, you know,
if I just see some beautiful stuff.
Yeah. Well, and two, and also like video, like those things of like staying connected to people that exist now that didn't exist 10 years ago are also a huge help. Like, if I was having a bad day, I could Skype my mom.
Right.
And see her face.
What was the time difference?
Oh, it was gross. It was
crazy.
Like, I always called people to be like, hello from the future, because New Zealand was typically either 16 or 18 hours ahead.
So it's almost easier to go. So it's like...
it's tomorrow plus 6 hours.
6 hours. So it's like 6 hours later. So, right? But tomorrow.
You know, I was there for almost a year and a half, and I still never figured out.
Yeah, but you were able to... If you called during the day, it would be the day here, but the previous day?
I would like call either in the morning or like super late at night.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense, I think.
Yeah, so it was either like evening here or morning here was typically the play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so St. Louis, we're in St. Louis now. You went to college here?
Went to college here, went to Webster.
And you grew up not far away from here?
I was born in Columbia, Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah.
How far is that?
Hour and a half.
Okay, nice.
You're driving to Memphis next?
Yes.
What highway do you take?
I don't know.
I think 44. I think 44 goes straight south.
I got here on 44, kind of.
So I-70 takes you east-west, and we are like 99 miles from Columbia off of I-70.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel about St. Louis? Do you like
it changes every day.
Your feelings towards it?
Yes. I love St. Louis. I think St. Louis is like a city of grit. I think that you 100% get out of St. Louis what you put into St. Louis. And there's a really great community here. Like, my people are here. I've got really good friends.
Friends from college.
Friends from college,
I'm sure friends from growing up, too, because, like, it's like, no.
Yeah, not really from growing up. It's more from university, and then really more from, like, working through college and, like, the industry life.
You'd be so fun to work with, I can tell. I can just feel it.
Oh, man, you should call my chef and tell him that, because there are times I look over and he's just like, oh, God, Kelsey's dance. I was told I cannot dance during service anymore, which is fair.
I could feel it on you that it's a stressful shift, and you're right in the middle, and then you give me something fun.
I just have like no tolerance for people being grumpy, and especially not even grumpy, but if you're gonna be fussy and then you want to bring people down to like your level and like be fussy and serious, like I can be a total goober and do a great job.
Yes, right.
And I always want to I think that's like what you go into stand-up comedy thinking you're gonna like be relief to people, and then you put yourself through so much torment that you don't even care if anyone has any relief ever, because you know that they don't deserve it. But still, like, being away from comedy, I'm like, I just like, if I can like make someone a little bit more pleasant, that's great.
Right, the real work to be done. Yeah, the real work in lightening people's loads is at your job.
Yeah.
Or like, like in your family, like late at night if someone's having a big argument. If you go like, well, that went well, or something like just a little thing.
Without question. Like, my parents would like be in an argument, and I'd be like, well, over here, Dad is upset with Mom. Like, I would like start, narrating it.
Make a little fart
noises without question. Or I would spill something and pretend like I fell in it. Anything to lighten the mood. Yeah, St. Louis is good. St. Louis it has been tough being back in St. Louis. Actually, a former coworker of mine has like upwards of 10 women who have come out against him with sexual assault allegations.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And the response, it's just like 2020 really did suck for a lot of reasons. And it's been difficult to be like in a community and in the industry that's already hurting because of everything that's going on.
So badly.
And then it's just like, by the way, let's also, which needed to happen. It needed to come out that, and it was more than just him, it was other individuals, and they were working together, and they were drugging women, and like they were in business together. Like they bought a bar together.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
In this city?
In the city. And so it was like that we're already going through all of this in addition. Let's pile this on top of it, and then let's
No one's making any money.
try and figure out how to navigate this.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like amidst that, I was like, "Yep, ready to get out of here." But then I also feel compelled to like make St. Louis a better place. And
As like you feel like it's your hometown.
yeah, it is my home. I mean,
Yeah.
I tell people St. Louis is home.
Yeah.
It is home.
Yeah. I live outside of Syracuse, and I say Syracuse.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want to say the little lake town I'm from. Who cares?
Yeah.
So do you see yourself staying here?
No.
Aha. Because
Yeah.
you said that you're a wanderer.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I really do believe that like home is like what you take with you, and that it's like more people than it is a place.
Yes.
And if everyone that I loved in St. Louis magically transported themselves to Quebec, Quebec would be home.
Yeah.
And yeah, I very much like carry home with me, and St. Louis is, I call it a boomerang, because I can always come back to St. Louis. I know there's going to be someone here who has a couch I can crash on, who's going to be excited to see me, who I'm going to be excited to see. I know there's going to be, I know the restaurants, I know the scene, I know the parks, I know where I can park a van and sleep and not
Yep.
be worried about it getting broken into. Like, I know St. Louis. But
Boomerang is good. I like that. I feel that about Chicago. I have this van, and I've been like coming back to Chicago so often that I'm
do
like,
you sleep in the van in Chicago?
no, I've got so many couches to crash on in
Okay, I
Chicago.
was to say that would be brutal.
That would be brutal. It's scary. Yeah.
And scary.
I was planning on doing it once, and like I used to live in a super bougie, nice little neighborhood, Lincoln Square. It was so nice, and I was like, I could do it here. It's like no one's gonna
Yeah.
be walking by here until someone walks their dog tomorrow morning. Like I can park in this residential street, and no one's gonna look at me or see me. I don't have like it looks like a commercial van. You can't really tell.
Yeah.
But anyway, Boomerang is it's a very positive way, because I've been like, I gotta stop stopping in Chicago so much, and I stopped there, and I'm there for longer than I thought I was
Yeah,
gonna
but
be.
like, who cares? Like, I think that's the benefit of being a mobile person is like, when I got back to St. Louis, I was like, I'm going to be in St. Louis until July. Like, I was all about like always setting deadlines for myself.
Right.
And I've finally, I think, been able to like be okay with like just not making a plan and not having a deadline.
Nice. So what's your plan?
My plan is to get my Ford Taurus outfitted in a way that it is comfortable to spend. Like, I'd like to take it on a month-long road trip.
Wow.
And really work out the kinks on that. That being said, it may not last that long.
Oh, really?
Like, I mean, it's a 2004. Fords run forever. I hope that it does.
I like the Ford Taurus. My mom had one.
Yeah.
And she had one like that you have. They've changed it since, but
Yeah.
it has a very distinctive
Oh
shape.
yeah, I see this car. Well, and so that's the good thing about
It's
this car
silver.
is there's always going to be a part for it,
Yeah, right.
which I don't have to worry about.
Right, you just go to where a mom was recently, and then
Yeah.
you'll find it. Someone's bottoming out. Is there
Someone's-
speed bumps over there?
No, just drains.
Ooh.
I don't have a plan. My plan is I say that and then I just said I have a plan. I can tell you what I want to do. I want to stay in St. Louis until I'm like back on my feet financially. I want to, like, I've been going out into the various state parks of Missouri almost every weekend. Really enjoying that.
What's around here? There's rivers and what's around
Yeah.
here?
So like southern Missouri is just absolute beautiful rivers.
The Ozarks.
Yeah, so the Ozarks. Well, so you think of like Lake of the Ozarks.
Okay.
That's kind of we've all seen Ozark.
Yeah.
Close, but it's nicer on Ozark than it is in the Ozarks.
Sorry? Lake of the...
The
Oh, okay.
Lake of the Ozarks
Is nicer.
dumpier than what the dump they make it appear to be on
that
the
show.
TV show. Yeah, explore around Missouri as much as possible, and I'm trying to figure out how to make money and be mobile.
Yeah. I know.
Because
That's
I am over bartending. I love my job. I love being at work.
Yep.
I love the restaurant that I built. I love everything about it. And still I'm like, I can't do this for another year.
You wouldn't want to be a kick-ass manager? Because you absolutely would be.
Hey, Kelsey, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. Cool, take 10.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Why don't you get high while you're out there?
She's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not like other bosses, Kelsey.
No, I don't want to be a restaurant manager.
Good. That's a bad life. I mean, not a bad life, but
It's for some. It's not for
it's
me.
a dead end. Oh, that's
Yeah.
That's good. I'm trying to work on that. Non-judgmental language. Where I go, that's a shit job. I would never want to have that job.
I mean,
I go, not for me.
It's not for me. I will learn. I was challenged instead of saying I don't know to say something of like a instead of I don't know. Switch it up to something that shows that you are capable. So I've been saying I will learn instead of I don't know.
I will learn.
I will learn.
That's good. I'm just getting to the point where I can say I don't know instead of making up something.
Yeah.
Or just bullshitting something. I forgot someone asked me about. I mean, with COVID too. I feel like I'm just being like, sunlight kills COVID, and someone's like, does it? And I go, I'm 90% sure it kills COVID.
People
it's
will
bad.
believe anything.
It's
if you
bad.
say it with conviction.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's like. And if you have like the authoritative voice that I have, and you can speak calmly, and it's like I could sail through, and people will believe me. That's shitty.
Yeah. I just want to be able to support myself financially and not in the way where it's constantly like, am I going to be able to afford like a night in a hotel? It's like all of those things. Like I want to figure out how to be mobile and be successful.
Yeah.
But like, I've also never been motivated by money, which is probably a problem because it was like I would work my ass off for 2 years, get burned out, and then I would have, 10 grand in the bank, and then I would go to New Zealand for a year, and then it's like, and then I would be broke, and then I would just come back and like have to start all over again. And I'm past the point where I want to start all over all the time. I just want to find like a constant that allows me to travel, and then it's also like celebrated. Like I feel like being back in the US, people think of me as like, oh, well, something's wrong with you because you're 32 and you're not married and you want to live in a van. Are you so comfortable with like being alone that this is just your life now? And it's like, well, I'm not alone. I have a lot of friends.
Right.
Like, do I want that big love? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I want that, but I'm also not going to compromise like doing the things I want to do for someone who just wants to stay put.
Did you say you want to be celebrated?
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
I
It's
want
so funny. I've never heard it put that way before.
Like people celebrate you getting married.
Right.
Like celebrate me buying a $30,000 van and figuring out how to live in it. It's not a $30,000 van. That's not happening yet. But like I've joked about like, cool, I'm going to have a celebration of Kelsey and I'm going to have a destination celebration. We're all going to go to Puerto Rico and you guys are going to come here as if I'm getting married.
That's good. Actually, yeah. Like, where's my party? Yeah, right.
I'm doing it without help.
That's huge. Actually, I feel like that's something that like, all my comedian friends, like they do have those like, they come home from these holidays and they go, yeah, I've had to explain to my aunt and uncle what the hell is going on with my life, like, and they don't know,
like
and
something's
it's okay.
wrong, and it's like nothing is wrong. It's just a different, and that is a big change I've been trying to make. Is instead of saying like right or wrong, it's just different.
Different.
It's not better or worse. It's just different.
Right. Non-judgmental language. These are some hot tips. This is very good for me right now.
Think about it on your drive to Memphis.
This is very good for me right now. Yeah, like but also that thing about like being celebrated or whatever. It's like if they look at what you're doing as worse, or that like that you're somehow incomplete or whatever, then like screw them. Who cares?
Yeah.
But also it would be nice if you could bring those people in and like they could understand. But like even like in these past 6 years doing comedy, it's like I was teaching and then now I'm doing this, and then it's not as good for the relatives. They think that you're doing worse when in fact like I'm doing so much better. I'm doing so much better. I'm so much happier, and I love my life so much more. But then I'm like, I consider them like these are Thanksgiving, Christmas problems. You deal with them around Thanksgiving and Christmas. The rest of the year,
and we didn't even have to have Thanksgiving or Christmas this year.
I know. We can skip it. You could just skip it this year. This year you could have done
I actively would make travel plans over the holidays so I did not have to be home.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it was also coming from like a broken family and having multiple parents and whatnot. It was like, well, now I don't have to choose between a parent because I'm just going to go do something for myself. And I encourage everyone, if you don't want to explain yourself over a holidays, just go somewhere else and then just like pop in on like a Wednesday in March and you're family will be pumped to see you and not ask you questions like, is everything okay?
Yeah. Well, and then the holiday is like Kelsey's home. There's no, you know what I mean? Like, and there's no pressure on Kelsey's home. It's not like a Thanksgiving or Christmas. There's traditions.
Yeah.
You're just home, and let's all have dinner because I'm home.
Yeah.
That's very good.
I need to find, I'll send you a picture of my family's Christmas cards. So my family, like, everyone's married, everyone has kids except for me. And so you have the mug of myself.
Oh, yeah.
In New Zealand. So for the last several years, my dad has put out a Christmas card of like, here's what the family's up to. And after last year's card, I told him he has to ask my permission before he decides what picture he puts.
Oh my God.
And he had like, it was like a picture I'd sent him of me like being like an idiot. But it's like, you know, a beautiful backdrop, like waterfall or something in New Zealand. And it's like, happy family, happy family, happy family, happy family, mom and dad. Kelsey being like, it's like, oh man.
Some disgusting image, yeah.
Yeah.
Some goofy.
And then so this year he was like, please send a picture. And so I sent this really awesome picture of me like working, like building the restaurant. And I've got like, you know, like my building pants on and I'm like wearing my like cool like carpenter's
mask. You
mask.
helped build the restaurant?
Yeah. So that's what I did from March until we opened was I built the restaurant.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You feel so involved then.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it called?
It's called the Lucky Accomplice.
The Lucky Accomplice.
Yeah.
Oh, I can just smell the $13 cocktail.
Oh,
in that name.
they're $12.
12. All right, that's the standard for bougie cocktails.
Yeah, but they also are really beautiful cocktails. Yeah.
Whereas in New York, a $12 cocktail is called a gin and tonic in New York City.
Right.
So.
Yeah. We also have a $5 beer and a shot special, which.
Wait, $5 for the beer and the shot?
Yeah, it's the Kelsey. I call it the neighborhood special. I was like, you guys, we have to have something where anyone can walk in off the street and afford to be here.
Do you have any idea how smart that is? They owe you $10,000. I'm not kidding. Like, I worked at a bar that failed for not having one of those.
I learned that at the Coal Room in Brooklyn, maybe Lower East Side, I don't know, somewhere in New York. But it was like they did a $5 beer and a shot, and people would crank in, like, just fill the place for the $5 beer and a shot, and then they would get drunk, and then they would order the $12 cocktail.
100%.
Because they're like, oh, I'm going to do this now, you know?
Now that they're a little drunk, they're used to the lighting, they don't feel intimidated, but the bartender is nice. They're not like, there's a feeling that if you order a $12 cocktail, they're going to like make fun of you or make you feel like a poor person. I
would also love to have a bar one day or just work at the bar and convince them that on the menu it just says $12 cocktail. It's your $12 cocktail. Here's your $7 beer. Like, that's it. That's all you get.
That would be cool.
Well, $20 beer and a sandwich.
Yeah. Oh wow. That would be the hottest place in St. Louis. It's funny how like that stuff works if you just meet people where they are.
Yeah.
The Lucky Accomplice.
The Lucky Accomplice.
I can see you. You're going to be there for a little while, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I have no plans to leave. And Brian, who's one of the owners and is a very good friend of mine, said, Kelsey, we know you're a flight risk. Will you just let us know before you go?
You're a flight risk.
And I said, yeah. And he was like 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, I was planning on like 6 weeks. I would give you 6 weeks. Because like we'll have to get someone hired. We'll have to train them. We'll have to make sure they like gel with the fam and all that stuff. And he was like, okay, cool.
That sounds nice.
But yeah, no, they were all like, because, well, up until my visa program got canceled in New Zealand, it was like, if I get permission to go back to New Zealand, I'm going.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And now you're done? Are you going to go back to New Zealand, do you think?
2023 is my goal. So that the Women's World Cup is there in Australia.
Ooh.
And so my goal is to be in New Zealand to watch the United States crush New Zealand.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Are you super into soccer? Because you coach soccer, obviously.
Yeah.
You grew up doing it?
Yeah. Soccer was my jam. And now it's fly fishing.
Now fly fishing is your jam. Yeah.
It's still both my jam.
Yeah.
I keep a soccer ball in my car at all times.
Oh, cool.
Don't keep my fly fishing rod in my car at all times. A little bit more accessible to just have a soccer ball. And also, like, soccer is, like, the reason I became, like, I felt ingrained in the community of where I lived in New Zealand was, like, I was there waiting on a job and had, like, 4 days to kill. Was like, well, what am I going to do with my, like, evenings?
Yeah, of course.
Like, I can go out and play and whatever, but am I just going to, like, sit in my van? And so I got on Facebook and found a soccer club, was like, oh, can I, like, come kick a ball around with you guys? You have, like, open nights. They're like, yeah, come on up tonight. Tonight. And so I went and I bought a soccer ball. I went to where I thought the park was. The park was not there. I'm walking through this neighborhood. I see this guy walk out of his garage, and I was like, hey, I'm looking for this park. I'm trying to get to soccer practice. Do you know where it is? And he goes, hold on just a second. He goes inside, His daughter was on the soccer team.
Whoa.
And he was like, she's going to give you a ride.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then I get in Zoe's car and we go to soccer practice.
Oh, my God. New friend.
Yeah. New friend instantaneously.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. But just like,
IRL. Real life.
Yeah. One of those moments where looking back, it's like, if that hadn't happened, I might not have gone, like, I would have just given up.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But I just had the courage to ask this random dude walking out of his garage, like, you live in this city. Do you know where this park is? And then it just so happened that his daughter was on the soccer team and was home that night.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Do you have any call to action for the audience? Anything you want them to know before we take off here? Or you can. It's essentially the plugs. It's something you want to tell them.
I've been saying, do no harm, but take no shit.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So
do you have tattoos?
I do have tattoos.
That sounds like a tattoo.
No, I would never get that
It's
tattooed.
too explicit.
Yeah. And I don't have any words tattooed on my body. Actually, I take that back. So Tat Tavama Si is tattooed on my back.
Sorry?
Tat Tavama Si, it is Sanskrit for thou art that.
Oh, great.
So like I see myself in others and others in myself is the translation. I was super into, what was that dude? He was like the Oprah resident, like Indian. Like he was the guy, he was like the Cultural Diversity Act, and he wrote a couple books about meditation, and I don't know.
You don't even know his name anymore? Ram Dass?
And I had his,
he's Indian.
But
Gupta.
I mean, it's
Sanjay Gupta. I got it. Deepak Chopra.
Yes, it was Deepak. It was
Ooh,
Deepak.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that was him?
It was from his book, The Spontaneous Fulfillment of Desire. Yeah, so there's the only words I have tattooed on my body. But I also have like an elephant dabbing, like, and when I stand next to my friend Taylor, it looks like they're cheersing, like it's like got a beer in its hand. So
matching tattoos.
Matching tattoos,
Very cool.
yeah.
Because you guys are both Republicans.
Because we are both Republicans who like to party.
Elephants with the beer.
I didn't even think about that.
Never make fun of someone's tattoo. That's also, I shouldn't make fun of someone's tattoo.
No, you totally can.
On their body forever. I know. But
Yeah.
If you're friends. Okay. Do no harm.
Do you have any tattoos?
No.
Are you going to get a tattoo?
Never.
Never?
I just don't think so.
My body is a temple.
It's like I'm that afraid of commitment.
That's fair enough. That's why I got one.
To commit?
Was just like, I mean, I'm going to have this body forever, so what difference does it make if there's something on it that I don't want? Like, if I can learn to love my Saki tattoo, maybe I can, like, learn to love the fact that I have a lazy eye or that, like, something doesn't work.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't plan on learning to love myself at any point. Yeah. So
keep it up. It's not worth it. You just get upset about how great you are and that nobody wants to be around you.
Yeah. I don't understand. Yeah. I feel like it's like whatever. They cost money. Even if they were free, I don't think I'd get one. So, and then the money is like, well, they cost money.
Yeah.
The aesthetic of them doesn't appeal to me. And you can't get no tattoos. You can always get a tattoo.
Yeah, you can't undo it.
You can't have none. I don't know.
There have definitely been times where, like, I'm like, oh, I really would like, it would be fun to go streaking. That is a thing that I would love to do at some point in my life. But now I have, like, identifiable markings on my body to where if I happen to be, like, streaking through a school zone, it would be like, you know.
Yeah, there you go. Sex offender.
Sex offender. Boom. She's got the elephant dabbing, drinking a beer tattoo. That's Kelsey McClure.
That's Kelsey McClure.
Yeah.
That's my new reason. That's just a faster reason.
Might want to go streaking one day.
Well, if I can, this way I can streak without regard for any consequence.
Yeah. The first time I saw a streaker was in Wrigley Field at a Cubs game, and I remember being like, that guy's crazy. And then like years later being like, oh, that would be like really fun to do if you could get away with it. Like just like tear ass down the stairs, butt naked, jump off, and then like do a couple cool like jukes and get out of the way of security.
Yeah, right. Then you could, then you're out of there.
You're wearing a mask.
Yeah, you're disappearing into the night. You're a vigilante.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, thank you.
Is there anything else I missed or I don't know?
Nah.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelsey.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
And the show's over.